All right, hey, good morning, folks. We're going to do some artwork today. I'm sitting here giggling to myself like a YouTuber. Don't mind me. Let me check my signal here to make sure that I'm coming through loud and clear, and then we'll get to work here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. How we doing? We'll get to work here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. How we doing? Yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, we'll just leave that like that. We'll drop this volume down a little bit. I'm going to grab the social media link here real fast and jump over here. Blip, blop, and then social media post. Hey, we're making an adventure for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition in the Eberron campaign setting. It's called Crystals and Mabars for 7th and 8th level characters. You can see the book cover here on screen. Yeah, so this is the book cover. We created this way back early, and hey, man, how you doing? And thus, we continue the stairs. We just keep climbing. Let me fix my window here to get things in place. And for those that are new to the channel, like, subscribe, bell icon, notifications. New subscribers, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. I've been seeing a lot of new subscribers recently. It really makes me feel good that I'm doing something right. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Here's a bunch of books that I've created on the DMsGuild for D&D 5e. They all have free previews, so be welcome to check them out. Here's a full playlist of all 571 episodes of us making this adventure. And I'm just going to go ahead and pluck this, and let's see, blop, 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 get rid of those, and drop our menu, our window down a little bit here, grab the screen, get rid of the book cover, and for those that are not indoctrinated, the format that we're using here, it's a 16:9 format. Designed to fit on a digital device. This is a digital-only product. It's a PDF that you can download from the DMsGuild once it publishes. And so the 16:9 format, as you can see here, it fits squarely inside of the frame of the 16:9 format screen. Each column is also 16:9. So if you hold the phone vertically, or whatever your device is, you hold it vertically, you'll be able to see one column at a time. Horizontally, you'll be able to see one page at a time. 12-point font makes it easy to see. We're going to have, once this thing is properly built, we have navigation buttons down here that'll take you to different locations throughout the adventure. Each page of the adventure itself that has maps on it, you can click into hold on real quick. We'll take a quick tangent here since we're talking. Let's drop down to page, say, 50 to 68. Okay, yeah. So here is the mega the final dungeon, part 3 within the Nexus. Here's the map of the different locations. Here's an entry point. Here's an entry point. Here's an entry point. Here's an entry point. Teleportation circle, and you could actually just be plane shifted in as an entry point. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 different ways to get into this dungeon. Each of these rooms will have a number on it once we get to that point, and when you say click here, this would take you to here, which is prior page here, which is area 5 storeroom, and then area 6 is the laboratory. These are all Bastion facilities in the Dungeon Master's Guide 2024. If you decide to make use of Bastion rules, this dungeon is already ready for you to make a Bastion. It was designed to be a Bastion, so you can implement that. But here is, if you clicked on that prior map, right? If you clicked here, on the map, it'll hop you to here. And then, as you can see here, we have this railing down here of different. This is a different format of the. This is a newer format of the window frame and the navigation buttons. But if you were on this page and you're reading about the laboratory and the different alchemists that are here, and you're done with that page and you wanted to bounce back, you'd be able to click here to go back to part 3. If you click that, that would just take you back to this map here. And then you could choose a new location. If you click here instead, that would then bounce you to the teleportation circle. And here's the details about the teleportation circle. So it's designed to allow you to bounce back and forth in the document by basically clicking on it with your thumb, obviously like on a desktop, on like a tablet. But here you can just click and it'll take you there. PDFs are really fun because they're hyperactive like that. And when you have an illustration or a map, you can highlight each area to be clickable to take you to different hyperlinks. So when we have this thing fully strung up, like wandering encounters, 3 unfamiliars are roaming the halls while invisible. See under observation sidebar below. Yellow cat mushrooms is stuff that's being carried. Oh wait, shadow mastiffs, emerald claw officers, or 1 emerald claw officer carrying a bunch of stuff, where there's no encounters. So when we have this strung up, if you click, this will be hyperactive. So if you click imp familiars, it'll take you to the back of the book in the appendix where we have listings for imps. So that's the idea. So there you go. When we do the page layouts, we have gaps. We fill large gaps with illustrations. Smaller gaps like this, we'll put probably some sort of texture or just like sketch of something. I don't know yet. But I'm focusing now on actual page illustrations that need to be completed, and I believe we have a dozen left. So with this one, that's a dozen images that we still have to produce. So without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to conceal that mark there. Here, I'm going to duplicate this layer in case something goes awry. So we'll do that. And we're just going to start erasing a little bit to create the grit on the ground. Here, we go back to our reference image here. Here is the actual cemetery itself. This is the map. I have it tilted, but this is the map that we created for the cemetery. And if you zoom in, you can see that there's all these crystals and grit on the ground. There's fog. There's fog in the environment, so it has like this haziness to it. But you can see in little clear spots here, you can see that there's black grit on the ground that's getting hazed out because of fog that we have sweeping through here. But this is the color palette that we're using for the illustration that we're working on currently right now. These crystals grow everywhere. In the manifest zone, the fog is necrotic, and the manifest zone is so powerful that it's terraforming the Carnwood to become Mabar. And when the ritual finishes, that's being performed, when the ritual finishes, it will the manifest zone will become permanent and basically an extension, like a footstep of Mabar into the physical world of Eberron. And there's a rift that gets opened that you could pass through both ways in and out of Mabar. Do you have a full-on psychic class system since it's so deep baked in Eberron in your Discord games, or do you subscribe to flavors free? That is a massive tangent, but I'm willing to take it with you here real quick. Here's the Martial Powers document. There are maybe 200 episodes of us developing the Martial Power system. This document, like everything else I have, this is a playtest document. It's a read-only document that people can have access to. It's far from the final version of the book, but it's what we're currently using for playtesting. And if you were to, this has all 14 classes in it. So if we were to dive down to, say, page. Here's the Druid. Let's get past the Druid. Sorcerer. Okay, so that's Sorcerer. So we have all these classes are using the color mana system, which is a 1-to-1 point ratio. A sorcerer has 100 mana at 20th level, while like a wizard and all other full casters have 80 mana at 20th level. This is baking the sorcery points into the mana since there's no real difference. A big difference with this sorcerer is that when you prepared, you don't have a meta magic category here, right? So you can prep any number of spells or meta magic meta magic abilities if you wanted to. So like you could just go with cantrips and acquire 20 some odd meta magic powers and just modify cantrips if you wanted to be a virtually infinite cannon. Here's the different costs for the different, there's 23 different meta magic that we have in the game currently. And you can like spend 3 mana. Like at 9th level, you can spend up to 3 mana on meta magic, and like you could delay spell, entangling spell, explosive spell, heightened spell. Anyway, these are all things that I pulled from 3rd edition. I played a lot of sorcery and meta magic in 3rd edition. Meta magic was open to all classes in 3rd edition. But to your point about scions, right before the sorcerer is the scion. And again, we converted into spell points because I'm a big fan of the mana system. The whole project is designed to get all, 14 classes onto the same mana resource so that multi-classing is easier and that everyone is basically using the same language, color magic, to express their characters. So we use as a 1-to-1 point ratio. The Scion gets an energy die, which is a D6, D8, D10, D12, which scales the same as the Monk. And you can expend mana to do things with your energy dice or to cast spells on the list that they have listed. So the maximum amount of energy dice, the maximum amount of energy dice that you can put into anything is at the half-casting progression, the same half-casting progression that we have for the Sorceress, the innate sorcery, which is you can add meta magic up to 5 points of meta magic at 17th level. So this is designed to curve out and coincide with the Monk so that you can have Monk Scion multi-classing and use energy dice the same as you'd be able to use, like, say, martial arts dice. And so this is a full conversion. We converted the entire class and changed all the class features to it. Here's psionic feats that we created that implement mana. Since every class, when you're using this, since every class has mana, you can pick up these different, you can pick up psionic feats, and if they can make use of mana, every character in the game would actually be able to use that mana system. Then we have the subclasses down here, and you can see that we built these things out. So we haven't converted them to the most recent version. This is just the first Scion UA that came out. But 100% it's absolutely here. So if anyone wanted to play a Telepath in my playtesting, they would be welcome to do so. I'm a big fan of psionics. Always have been since the Will and the Way and Dark Sun back in 2nd edition. I have been absolutely in love with psionics. It was an OP random thing in 1st edition that didn't really make a lot of sense unto itself. But if you could hit those percentile numbers that you needed and you got psionics, it was basically free spell casting. So we all wanted psionics in 1st edition. It wasn't until 2nd edition with Dark Sun that it became relevant. That's too chunky. Up here, this is the right size for us to erase with. But as I move back here, I need to reduce the size of the eraser to fit better. But for now, we're just going to chop away at some of this here. Thanks for asking. I love spell points in D&D. We're currently the way that we're currently running is with gritty realism is every other day is a full rest. So that kind of coincides with 1 short rest per long rest, like the general accepted pacing of the game. It works out pretty well with mana because you're either a full caster with 80 or, in the case of the sorcerer, 100 mana at 20th level, and other classes like if you're using let's reduce the size here a little bit. If you're using long rests on your half casters, they have 40 mana. If you're using short rest mana on your marshals, your warlock, your monk, they have 20 mana on a short rest. So, but they have the ability to expend action economy to gain additional mana. So, like I could sacrifice an attack in my attack actions, and that would, instead of making the attack, I'd get a free point of mana that I could use anytime before the start of my next turn. If I sacrifice my bonus action, I can gain free mana. 1 at 1st, 2 at 9th, and 3 at 17th. The rogue can sacrifice their movement to gain mana, depending on whether you want to be a skirmisher or a sniper, so they can play both fields that way. And reactions can be sacrificed to generate mana. But you only get one actual reaction per turn, so that's 1 point of mana that you can acquire. So the marshals don't have don't have a large stack of just raw mana, but they have multiple ways of being able to use or regain mana cheap and easily so that they can sustain themselves. Like they can literally go all day casting spells and stuff if they have access to them. But it's been a lot of fun testing. Ton of fun testing mechanics. And it's been going really, really well. We're at 9th level right now. We're running around in a mega dungeon. I'm probably going to change up the scenery and move out of the mega dungeon soon. And probably switch to a different type of campaign. I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but it's going to switch up. Just because it takes a ton of work to maintain and upkeep a mega dungeon, and I'm finding that it's taking more time for me to build a dungeon than I want to expend, because I want to get this book done, and I do this book during off time, but I also have to do mega dungeon design in my off time, and I'm like, if I wasn't actually like trying to build a book right now, I'd be a lot more keen to building out a mega dungeon all the way through 20th level. But that would be a massive, massive time suck that I don't currently have the bandwidth invested for to do it. So I'm probably going to pick up some pre-gen stuff or stuff that I've done in the past and just run the characters through that stuff. I haven't decided fully yet, but there's going to be a switch soon. Hey, how about that? 20-minute timer. Keep it going. Current DM uses stuff from the Scion's primer for Kornberg Chronicles. Oh, right on. By what others say, the design approach there is pretty E3E. Yeah, right on. Cool. Yeah, I'm pretty, considering what 5e is, I'm pretty happy with what they're doing with Scions. I wouldn't expect any better. I could have expected worse. So they're in my eyes, they're doing okay. And there's grit on the ground there. That's looking pretty good. Let's open up a couple more patches here. Where do we go from here, huh? I wish they had leaned more into the psi classes that already exist with their psionic dice. I would like psionic dice to be combined, but they front load classes, so like the psi warrior and the soul knife. They front loaded those classes with psionic dice to make sure that they had enough resources to do stuff, and That's why I like using mana, and then having a psi die that you can use, a psionic die you can use to modify your abilities, but having them use a more stable resource like spell points allows you to just have a growing stack of mana that grows at a rate depending on what class you're advancing right now. And then all of the subclasses that have different dice or whatever mechanics that use that mana, like the Battle Master uses that mana with your superiority dice to do maneuvers. The Psi Warrior uses their mana to trigger their abilities, and if the ability uses a psionic die, then you roll the psionic die with it. And whether you keep your mana or not, that would be it would work the same as, like, if a psionic ability refunds your psionic die, it would refund the mana that you spent to trigger use of that die. It's an additional step, and the complexity of spell points, of course, is fairly controversial amongst different teams, depending on whether they like it or not, or how they pace their game. But it's a superior system, and 5e would benefit immensely if it would just get rid of its shackles of legacy. I mean, if you aren't going to respect the lore of legacy, then why hold yourself to the mechanics? So I think there's a ludonarrative disconnect there between what WotC seems to want to do and how they execute it. But I'm harsh as a critic, because I am absolutely in love with 5e. It's been I haven't really needed to do a lot of design work prior to 5e because so much content was produced for all the previous versions. But WotC's being far more conservative in the amount of content that they're publishing, probably so that they don't bankrupt themselves like TSR did, which is a sound strategy. I don't blame them for that, but they're not allowing themselves to lean on the lore of the past because I guess the new zeitgeist doesn't like what the old guard had done, so they're abandoning thousands of books of details that are still viable regardless of what game engine you use. It's just a shame to see it go. Let's see. So we have our environment here. I need to dirty up the gazebo back there. I need to dirty up the gazebo here. But I think all this terrain is good, but I want to fix the tombstones. So that's what we're going to work on next. Duplicate the layer. Merge it down. There we go. Love me Scions. They're so much fun. Hey, welcome to the team, crew. I do artwork like this every day. We got more people now in attendance than we had before, so here's the 16:9 format. So you can see how the page how the page sits on your monitor if you're looking at this full screen right now. It's a 12-point font text. There's a decent chance you could actually be reading this right now. But it's designed to maximize the device or the media in which it's being used. So you can go back to the beginning of the episode. I was talking about like hyperlinking and navigation and stuff like that. But when we do the page layouts, wherever the gaps are, that's where we put illustrations. And we're talking about the cemetery here, which is great because we don't have room for like environmental illustrations in the actual chapter of the cemetery. All the space is taken up by diagrams, charts, and maps needed to operate the cemetery as an arena, a combat arena space, and to explore it Scooby-Doo style. But I want environmental illustrations. So at the back of the book in this appendix, we have all these alternate plot hooks that your characters can use as a reason to be engaged in the adventure. And this plot hook here is Church of the Silver Flames. These are your plot providers. You're trying to discover the source of this Mabaran manifest zone, shut it down, and shut down whoever's capable of producing it. So you're kind of on an assassination mission, but you don't really know any details about what's going on when you get in there. So the adventure has its own storyline, its own goals. You get bonus resources, like depending on what plot hook you get different like tools or devices or whatever information as well. Adventure rewards are different depending on what plot hook you go with, and where you start in the adventure can be different depending on which plot hook you choose to use. And then furthermore from there is in the actual adventure itself, there's unique encounters. So like there's one the first prepared encounter in the Carnwood Forest is up a tree. Normally these would be lumberjacks that were chased by undead. They climbed a tree to get away from them. But if you're using the Silver Flame, this is an opportunity for you to connect with people that are sympathetic to your cause right away as basically compasses to point you in the direction that you're supposed to go, because that's the direction that they came from and they had to run. With you here, they can act as sidekicks or scouts to help your team out if needed, or you can just be like, we're going to get paid if you guys survive, so get the fuck out of here. Get out of here so we can get paid. We'll catch up with you once we handle the rest of the chaos. And they're like, okay, but here's the rest of the information that we know. And one of the options is some of them have been captured and subsequently escaped. So this is an illustration of the cemetery through which one of the teammates is escaping. This is Enrica Fleur. She's the rogue of the party. If you're using Up a Tree, Barrett's already dead. He got killed by undead while these two were climbing trees. If you don't use the Up a Tree option, then all these characters are imprisoned for sacrifice right now, and only Enrica escaped. But she wants to go back now that she found the players. She wants to go back and rescue the rest of these guys. And if your team needs support, this is a good plot hook to go with, because it equips you with additional characters that can fight NPCs while your team focuses on the villains. Anyway, so there you go. Hey, what's going on, Brothers Grimm? So that's yeah, a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. Here is the cemetery tombstones. I feel like I need to reduce the height of them a little bit, like that. I'm just going to reduce. I just want to drop their height a little bit so they don't stick out too much. This one's too tall. Let's fix your height, buddy. Retransform. Okay. Yeah, that feels better. Go in here and down. This one doesn't need to be dropped down. It just needs to be lowered. Maybe you need to be dropped in size a little bit. Let's do that. We got this other one that's peeking through back here. Let's grab him. Scooch him over a bit. There. And this one, we can similarly squinch. This one's already pretty squinched. I just want to drop him just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that's, I deem, an improvement. Let's go back here and really drop these guys down. They're way too big. Like that. There we go. Okay. These are the open graves. All the undead have already animated and crawled out of these, so there's a lot of just skeletons, ghouls, and zombies that are roaming the environment. But we'll get to the open graves in a minute. We're just going to work on the tombstones themselves right now, and this is just going to be me integrating the line art into the stone. Let's increase the strength of that. I want to have the shape defined by these lines, but I don't want them lines. You know, I want to dissolve the lines into the form, the color. So I'm smudging it to dissolve it in. Plus, these are old tombstones. They don't need to be well defined. They don't. What am I trying to say? Weathering them severely is a good idea. In the actual adventure itself, there's a list of surnames that can be used. Most of the tombstones you can't actually read, like who's buried there, out of convenience for the DM. But there's a quick list of Karnath surnames that can be tagged to as you know, to be rolled on randomly as examples of tombstones, if the DM decides to humor the inevitable question from players: what name is on this tombstone? Well, you can't read the name on that tombstone. Can I read the name on any of the tombstones? It's like, yeah, some of them you can still make out the names, and there's about a dozen names that can be made out. So somewhere in the cemetery, there's a dozen names that you could then make out, or the DM can include any names if you want to do some heritage tie-ins for your characters. You're certainly welcome to do so. But I provided just enough information for the team to waste their time looking for stupid names on gravestones, and to actually provide some basic answers to them to satisfy their ridiculous tendency to, like, what's the name of all the books on the bookshelves in the library? Oh my god, I want to punch you in the nuts. Die, bastard. You don't actually care. You're just quizzing me. You're just harassing me. I used to have a player that would just do that shit just to fuck with me. Just, it would always push me to improvise details on the fly, because when I do that, it tends to open up opportunities for shenanigans. Like, most of the sidekicks that the team, like, adopted, like NPCs that the team adopts, comes from me being challenged in the moment. Who is this guy? I want to get deep and personal with who this person is. And it just ends up creating stupid stories that the team loves to latch onto. And fucking heaven forbid I accidentally add an accent to a character, because if a character has an accent, they immediately adopt them as their child. I was like, god damn. No accents. I can't sustain the Scottish brogue for you whenever you just want to ask Pippi what's going on. Well, just the players are bastards, man. Just utter bastards. And I honestly, I love it. Truth be told, they know I love it. But they love it because it's a cat and mouse game of trying to catch me out and providing details that I otherwise wasn't prepared to do. So they're just trying to make me laugh, like in Carol Burnett or Saturday Night Live, or like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Trying to make all the other actors or participants of the show laugh, so they lose their composure and forget their lines and stuff. That was like a little mini game that people on Saturday Night Live and Carol Burnett used to do all the time. Just try to get people to blow their lines and lose it, because like Carol Burnett was live. Saturday Night live. So if you can get people to blow to the laugh out of character, it's the audience loved it, and the players are the same. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but I really love that aspect of it, that the players have their own little metagame of fucking with the DM. And if your DM's comfortable with stuff, then it can be cool. I'm really comfortable with improvising, so I'm fine with it, and I think it's funny. But it also keeps me on my toes, because I don't want them to actually catch me off guard and force me into providing details. It's like, I have no idea. And I have no idea where this thing is, like how far off the tracks this thing is going to jump if I dive too far down that improv rabbit hole. So, but it's fun. That's the glory of role playing games, is the spontaneity and react, like the DM being reactive to the decisions that the players make. Knowing what's going on inside the game, and then being willing to let go of the wheel enough to just let the players take it where it's going to go. At some point, the DM is just basically umpiring strikes and balls. You know, like if they do this, how's the community going to respond to it, and then just act accordingly. Mostly, the DM is just processing responses. In many ways, D&D was a computer game without a computer, without an operating system or game engine to operate it. The DM is the game engine of determining success and failures through RNG, and deciding what the actual plot point is, like the random encounters. All that stuff is randomly generated, almost like a computer would do it, but at the time we didn't have the technology for it. Now you have like an actual computer game that's like a quote-unquote role-playing game, which allows you to progress characters and proceed through a plot with combat and options and stuff, but it's not spontaneous. Everything has to be coded. And while like things like Path of Exile and Diablo can have procedurally generated dungeons, and like I can't remember what game it was, but they had like the Enigma system, no, the Nemesis system, where the plots and like villain NPCs that you would encounter, like mini bosses, would change and evolve with the decisions that your team made, but those decisions were still on a limited drop-down menu. Role-playing games are truly unlimited in what direction or opinion or responses your players can have to the environment that's built. So two living creatures in the moment interacting directly with each other, we're able to just make up stuff as we go along without having the need to have anything coded in advance to justify or to figure out the mathematics behind how would that actually, how's attacking the bakery, how is that going to actually pan out? Well, in most computer RPGs, you can't attack the structure of the bakery. Why are you wasting your time doing that? But in D&D, you could burn down the whole town, and now you just have a smoking crater on your map instead of quest plot hooks. And that's what's so compelling about role-playing games versus computer games. It's like you can't code spontaneity. We don't have, until we have a much more advanced artificial DM, we can't have spontaneous responses like that. Maybe we will eventually. But for now, that is still a living campaign, requires a living DM with living players to engage with it. Hey, Steve. I didn't see you slip in there. What's going on, my guy? So I've got a lot of opinions. Now, obviously, I'm very opinionated. I've been DMing for 38 years, so I've certainly got thoughts. I really like the older school editions about how thorough they were in trying to provide mechanics at all scales of play, like character level, city level, vehicles, armies. Only 5e is the only edition where they didn't attempt to fill in all those pieces. 3rd edition, actually that's not true. 4th edition didn't either. 4th edition didn't do really anything with domain or mass combat, but every other edition had. Even though 3rd edition was the beginning of the dungeon punk era of D&D, it still was still carrying over. It was the first edition that WotC was making, so they had everything: commanding, building strongholds, armies, vehicle combat. They did everything because they were completely rebuilding the 5e game engine from scratch, or the D&D game engine from scratch, using the D20 system, which was fucking genius, by the way. What a great game system D20 is in general. 5e, 4e, also D20 system games, just refining the particular set of rules that you're using in D&D. Which speaks to how malleable D&D as a game engine is to be able to build things with. It's just WotC's decision in 5e was to get rid of a lot of controversial or quote unquote divided content, like mass combat and true dominion systems inside of your campaign is a heated topic. Not everyone wants to bother with that. It's incredibly work intensive and requires a ton of time, testing, and research to get right in the 5e game engine. I don't blame Wizards for not wanting to bother tackling it if there's no specific need to do so. I've been developing that type of stuff for years here in the 5e game engine, and I'm still working on it. I'm just one guy, but if WotC were to pursue the same idea, it would be millions of dollars and a ton of Q&A and playtesting time invested in employees when they're trying to downsize for profit. So that those two ideas don't really, like, researching and developing new game mechanics and new modes of play in the 5e game engine is antithetical to we want to make money. You can't do it. They literally just can't do it. And while that's disappointing and is a testimony to don't give creative works to corporations that are driven to produce profit, leave it in the hands of private groups like Larian that can afford or find ways to afford to invest in their passion project, regardless of how long it takes with as little manpower as possible, which obviously I'm sympathetic to, because I'm in that same boat. I'm just a guy that's making books for a game that I love, and I have the ability, the licenses and contracts and copyright laws that exist allows me to do that. But I don't have to have a huge success. These are basically passion projects that I hope build into an awareness and acknowledgement that the 5e game engine is capable of doing all of these things if we unshackle ourselves from what Wizards is willing to produce to express them. Their goals are not the same as mine or yours. My goals probably aren't the same as yours either. But that's the point. It's the corporation is making large decisions that are affecting the entire community, regardless of what each and every one of us want, which can and will naturally be different from each other. But I am attempting to develop the books that I would use, that I do use as a DM. Every book that I've created is stuff that is like, I wish I had this in a campaign. I wish players could do this, because I would love to run games that implement color mana, like for Magic the Gathering settings. Okay, well, once Ravnica came out and Theros is out and Strixhaven is out, it's obvious Wizards is never going to do anything with color mana for D&D. So that means that it's up to me, or it's up to whoever is willing to try. And as best as I can tell, I'm the only one who's actually tried. So I published the books on DMsGuild. They're obviously not very popular because it's just me that's promoting them, me and anyone else that stumbles into them and are willing to, that think that they're cool and are willing to use them. So, I mean, that is a very small audience of like 600 people so far have purchased my color mana books. Not a huge audience for the amount of time that I invest into it, but I believe in it. So I'm willing to invest my passion into that project, thus the title Passion Project, because I believe in it. I think it has merit, and I don't think Wizards is ever going to give it the attention that it deserves. So it is literally up to me to do it. And I like how these tombstones are turning out. This is good. Me ranting about D&D and WotC often helps me get my creative work going. It gets me on a rant, which makes me stop thinking about my pixels, which allows my reflexes and autonomic training to take over for me and open up my mind to explore whatever ideas come into my head, while the artwork is basically painting itself right now. Like I'm watching this just as much as you're watching it unfold. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. It's just my eye gets pulled to a point, and I just start mincing on the pixels at that location until I'm content with what it looks like, and then I move on to the next chunk of pixels. I'm gonna slide this in a little bit to small up that tombstone a little. It still seems a little bulky. For transform, let's just slide that in a bit. That feels good. I try to turn off my brain as much as possible when I do artwork, as I've been drawing since I was, I started doodling when I was 5 with tanks and ships and boats and stuff, and by the time I was 12 I decided to take it seriously. I'm 50 now, so that's 38 years of me taking artwork seriously, and I've been painting in color since 2000. So that's 25 years. 38 years of illustration, 25 years of color painting. And obviously I've got a way to go. I would not say I'm particularly gifted. I'm just stubborn. So I had a natural what's the word? I was predisposed to doing artwork because I love it. Since I was a little kid. But I wasn't talented at it. I was just persistent and inquisitive, and attempted to get better, taking classes and watching tons of tutorials and buying books and techniques and blah. I invested in getting good. While a lot of people have natural talent, I have none. I don't even see color. So I am the worst case scenario for an artist, but it's something that I truly love to do, so I figured it out anyway. Just figuring things, quote unquote, figuring it out is kind of what role-playing games are about, or like building supplements for role-playing games. They're also about solving a problem or finding a solution to how to express something, like the type of game that you want to run. You have to have a different narrative style or potential rules for like a horror game, as opposed to like a military war game, right? It's just the mood is different, so the mechanics should reflect that mood appropriately. The ludo narrative of your game needs to be attended to. So you have to develop mechanics and ways of expressing different styles of game. Hey, what's up? Oh, good. I'm not missing anything. You guys are just letting me rant today. Thanks a lot. Okay, so that's in place now. I like how the tombstones are sitting. They don't require a lot of detail. We can now work on the open graves. So here's that and that. Let's drop down. There they are. So this is the texture layer for the ground, and now we're working on. And here's the cobblestones. Here's the graves, the open graves, and here's the exposed earth. So if we go back to our reference document here, and we zoom in, all these graves are open. They've already been dug out, and we have these large water sinkholes here. So sinkhole. Yeah, this is all good. That's actually off. Hold on. I have to fix this tombstone back here. I need to reduce the size of this grave. Like that. We're going to texture up these holes in the ground here in a minute. Get them all fixed. Hey, what's going on? Ah, hiccups. That's brutal. Brutality. There, and I need to take this tombstone and shift it over like that. Let's grab this gritty bit down here and scratch that into the canvas here. Make this a touch bigger. There we go. Very good. All right, cool. So that looks good. That looks good. And let's go back to our holes in the ground. So I want to make sure that they're the right shape and size for the tombstone that's associated with them. And then sink in. It's raining constantly. This is taking place in the fall before harvest. So it's the wintry season in Karnath, or it's the rainy season in Karnath. So all the ground is muddy, and these gravestones, these open graves are filling in with water, and then we just showed on the map the large sinkholes. They're also flooded with water. This here, let's go back to our reference. There we go. So this is the location that we're messing with. So this one and this one have had their graves bleed into the larger pool, and then this third row back also bleeds into this large. This is just a large open pit of water. Obviously, everything is distorted by the fog that fills the region. I like this one in particular, these little bubbly effects. But each of these large flooded sinkholes can have any amount of undead that you want in them, crawling out of the water onto the surface of the graveyard to start attacking the characters from. There's a huge one here. There's another one here. There's another one here. And there's another one here. There's a small one here. There's a small one over here. So there's 4 large and 2 small ones. And until your characters go in and like wade their way into the water and fish around for undead, you can have any amount of them coming out of any one of these at any given time that you want. So literally every round you can roll a d4 to determine which one of these spits out 1d4 more undead. Your characters are 7th, 8th level. They can mow down skeletons all day while they're exploring this place. So you can just... That's one of the random encounter generators. Like, yeah, every round roll a d6. I think it's a d6 on a 1 to 4. Undead are spawning from one direction or another. 5 or 6, nothing happens this round. And then we have mob mechanics for having them grouped together as mobs of undead to attack your characters as a hazard. They have to make saving throws against instead of being attacked. Being attacked by a skeleton isn't a threat. Making a dexterity saving throw to prevent your character from being overwhelmed by a horde of undead is scary AF. So that's a great mechanic to have in your toolbox, and we provide just like 4 pages dedicated to mobs as hazards as an additional, because there's hazards in the DMG, like traps and weather and stuff like that. There's hazards. Burning is a hazard. Like catching on fire. There's rules that go on behind how these things are to be implemented in your game, like the rules for them, and the mob mechanics that they have is a way of statistically reducing the number of dice needed to make attacks against characters, or to make saving throws against spells that characters lob into large groups to help speed up the game. But it's still just an attack roll with incredibly complicated tables to determine what your bonus to hit is to attack the character. Instead, we made it a hazard. So it's like, no, I don't have to, the DM doesn't have to make any saving throws at all. The DM just has to get the monsters to get within touch range of the players. And now the players have to make a strength or dexterity saving throw to avoid being grappled as a hazard. So we're flipping it around so it becomes the player's problem to get away from undead instead of it being the DM's problem to attack the players with undead. Do you see the change in that mentality there? It flips the risk or the responsibility of safety away from the DM onto the players. And then you still kill all the monsters individually like normal, or fireball them, or whatever your favorite solution for clearing out mobs of undead will be. The threat is don't let them touch you, because they will grapple and automatically deal damage to you until you can escape and kill them. And that keeps the horror elemental alive really nicely for the campaign, because here comes 9 zombies. If they tag you, they're all going to start chewing on you, and it's up to you to break free of the grapple and to get away from them. Otherwise, they're just going to chew on you for X damage each round. Save for, and you can't save for half while they're mauling you. If you failed to save, you're still grappled and you're still getting mauled. Here comes your next batch of damage. And that's the kind of, the characters around 7th, 8th level are starting to get really strong. They aren't indestructible like 13th plus characters are. But even if you were to use 13th level, you can still implement mobs and threaten those characters pretty nicely. Or effectively, not nicely. There's nothing nice about threatening characters. How are we doing over here? 7:30. I got about 20 minutes left. I'm gonna take a sip of water. These things take time, but I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy with the progress. This is all going to get concealed largely by fog, so I don't have to kill myself on the details back here, but I want the details to be consistent and self-referential. This is all flooded out too. So I'm just going to extend this out here into the mist. We're going to probably do like maybe 4 layers of fog that will, like at 20% opacity, that will stack up on top of each other. So by the time we get back here, this will be like maybe 15% of this is visible, and it'll mostly just be washed out by fog, which is appropriate because fog washes everything out. The undead don't see the fog. The undead see through the fog as though it's invisible. But the fog created by the necrotic energies of the manifest zone is filling the environment and blocking view for normal, like mortal characters can't see through all this shit. Like your visibility is limited to either 20 or 40 feet. Depending on where you're at in the adventure and the density of the fog. This allows partially obscured up to 40 feet away, and then 100% obscured beyond that point. While like in the underground facility, the underground dungeon, where where the manifest zone energy is originating from, it is 20 feet of visibility, and then everything's 20 feet, and then it's all gone. So very, very close quarters. But the undead don't see that stuff at all. So they can see you like 200 feet away. Oh yeah, empty field. Somebody's walking through it. Let's get after them. And then they start chasing you down. But you won't see what's coming after. You might hear them and stomping wetly through the mud. You'll be able to hear that far away, but you won't actually be able to see it until they're within 40 feet of you. It's like, well, here they come. Looks like there's 12 of them. Let's get ready, because they're on us. And you won't know if they're ghouls, ghasts, zombies. You won't know what they are until they get there. And then wraiths and specters that are incorporeal are silent and can fly. So there could be wraiths up here in the sky, and it's out of your visual range, so they can just be following you, and at any point they can just drop down onto your characters when they stop to explore something. Like just specters drop on you and start draining your life, because again they could fly 300 feet in the air and see you easily, and you can't see them. So all the undead have advantage, and a lot of them are intelligent. So it's risky business out there. Be careful. But those are good challenges for 7th, 8th level characters. Even potentially 10th level characters that could be very dangerous if you don't have the opportunity to rest someplace. The game is a resource management game, and the main resource your character has are hit points. And when you run out of hit points, you die. If you run out of food and water for long enough, you will die. If any of your stats drop to 0, generally you die. Let's expand this out a little bit. That seemed a little small. So let's do that here. Turn up those edges a little bit. Like that. There's line art somewhere in here I need to get rid of. Maybe here? Nice. Good one, Kearney. Get rid of that line. I don't need it anymore. There we go. Okay, so that feels pretty good. I still need to do the gazebo and the distant gazebo and the walls. I also have to do the guards that are walking through here looking for Enrica, and I need to rebuild Enrica to be in a different pose. This is her combat token pose, but she's going to be hiding. She doesn't have any weapons currently either, so I need to take those out of her hands and make her hide more than lurk. So, but right now I feel like where we're at is fog. What's up? Do you have pitfall traps? It's a classic for a reason. There's a sinkhole. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. This would be, I think, page, I want to say 33 to 40. Maybe this is it. This is the cemetery map. This is too late. Here's the pages that we built for the cemetery. So here's the full cemetery, and these are where we're going to put the dots for clicking through. Yeah, that's not complete yet. Here is the entrance in the broken wall. So there's a over here on the map. There's a broken wall here. There's a southern gazebo here, which has clues for the characters. And then here is showing open graves. And then these are I need to have dots on these different areas here. These are the flooded landfills. This isn't what you were asking about specifically, though, but this is just showing how these maps integrate into each of the sections. Entrance, breached wall. So characters with a passive perception 10 or greater notice multiple skeletal tracks lead out from the cemetery in a southeastern direction towards the village in part 1. Any character that takes the study action notices recent boot tracks entering from the east. So there's NPCs that are roaming in here. Here's a little gap that we might end up putting like a little spot illustration. But this is the western gazebo, the rancid ponds here, and the western gazebo and the northern gazebo. So here's the western gazebo where Enrica is hiding, and here's the northern gazebo, which has a secret passage. Here are the mausoleums that are set up, located here. So if you were to click on this area here, that would automatically bounce you to here, the mausoleums. So here's the 4 mausoleums external, and then here's like an example of one of the mausoleum interiors. These are separate image files that act as lids that you can disappear or just move aside in a virtual tabletop. Yeah, here's the interior view of one of these. There's specters that are hiding in there that'll attack your character. Here's the main crypt. Here, the main crypt here. Here's an illustration of sarcophagi in the mausoleum. So here's 6 sarcophagi. They have wraiths in them. This has a spectral knight in it here. And once we get into optional encounters, optional stuff. Here's a secret passage that can open up here in the corner that will lead underground to the underground facility that we showed earlier. And here is a separate location on the northern gazebo that has a ladder also leading down into that tunnel. Here's a closer look at that. There's a hatch that opens up. There's a key that you can find at the southern gazebo that if you figure out what it's used for, it'll open up this hatch and your characters go underground. So I have space here on the side that I'm going to draw the key, but I haven't drawn it yet. So that's the cemetery map. I'm going to get that out of the way. But that wasn't what you actually asked about. You asked about pitfalls. So let's see if I can find... that was 33. This should be it, 27 to 32. Oops, I changed the title on that. Let's open it. Go to art, production, 27 to 32. There it is. This should be it. Okay, these are optional encounters in the manifest zone. And let's see. Here we go. Here's a pitfall trap. It's a sinkhole, so it's not like something you step on and fall through. But this used to be a mass grave, and that mass grave has animated into a living grave. So this is an undead ooze that we created for this adventure. It's basically a mass of undead that spits out new creatures from it. It basically has like an ammo supply. Here you can see it's murking. Here's your water line, and it's murking underneath the water. So if you drop down into here, when you come across this place, the undead will crawl up over each other, jump up, grab this ridge here, climb out. And here's the gaping wound in this gazebo, this little shrine area. They put shrines over all the mass graves to make you not question what's going on. But obviously the necrotic energies of the manifest zone are animating these locations and are animating the dead, and they're clawing their way out. And the necrotic effects of the soil is causing these things to sink in. So here's what you see on the surface, and then undead will spit out of these things. So you can build mobs of ghouls, ghasts, skeletons, and zombies. If the players follow the mobs back to the sinkhole location, here's your profile image you can see. And here's the interior space inside of this sinkhole. So if you want to stop the undead from coming out, because you have no idea how many undead are here underwater. It could be dozens or hundreds or maybe no more. But there's any number of these sinkholes, these mass graves that can be located throughout the manifest. The manifest zone covers a 5-mile area, but the core area of where the facilities and the cemetery and the flooded fort are within basically 900, within 1,000 feet of each other. So the whole complex occupies a 1,000-foot space inside of a 5-mile manifest zone. So you have to slog through basically 2 miles of manifest zone from the edge of the Carnwood into the manifest zone before you start hitting the actual dungeons that are located there. Prior to that 2-mile slog space between actual dungeons and the Carnwood, that buffer zone has just random encounters of undead and sinkholes like this that open up. There's a gazebo here with little walls that have rotted away. And there's large open water here that can have undead crawling out of them as well. Here's the Litharia Vulpina tokens that we created. If you step into these areas, it's a stinking cloud effect. You have to make a Constitution saving throw or lose actions. This is ferric vines, and these are stray bones that can't assemble into an actual undead skeleton, so instead grow and distort into basically thorny tarns that deal damage to you if you move into these spaces occupied by this ferric ivy. And you can actually harvest this material because it's as strong as steel. So if you harvest it and then you bonsai garden it, you can shape it into armor or to shape it into weapons. But it's moldable, so you can reform it. A druid with elementalist cantrip could just reform the shape of this ivy to be able to create weapons and armor and stuff. If you want to stick with that with the no metal motif of the druid. But yeah, fun stuff. And then the water hole, of course, here is it's poisonous water in it, so it'll cause you exhaustion damage, and it can spit out undead at you. So, but the answer to your question was, yeah, it's not actually a pit, it's just a sinkhole. But there you go. This is the only instance of basically a pit trap sort of thing in the game. But all the water hazards throughout here are chest deep, so they don't actually threaten to kill you. They just spit undead out at you until you find the mass grave, until you find the living grave inside of each one of these things. It has the ability to accumulate and spit out undead at you. So, hopefully that answered your question, and hopefully you thought that was interesting. There's that. Let's block that off and let's go to the distance here. Because there's these little wibble effects. I don't want those there. So I'm going to use my cloud brush, which is a smudging tool that I use to smooth out things like this. I don't know where that's coming from. That's coming from here. No? That's where this is coming from. Okay, we gotta smooth all that out. Drop the strength of this smudge brush down to like what, 40%? 30%. So that's is a lot more delicate. I don't mind having little streaks here and there. I just don't want artifacts. Artifacts are when like you notice the brush stroke, and the brush stroke doesn't have an actual identity inside the illustration. It's just a flaw or an incomplete brush. Where is this coming in from? I got a stray line up here that's bothering me, and it's in here somewhere. There it is. Gotcha. Gotcha, bitch. Yeah, this is where we're at right now. Let's just keep working this stuff into the canvas just to smooth it out. I'm gonna hide that gazebo for the time being. It's just getting in the way. Guards, gazebo, Enrica. There we go. Just gonna smooth this out into the distance because we're not gonna see any of this anyway. It's just gonna get stacked up with fog. But it's the foundation, so I want to smooth it out so it feels right. There we go. Good. Now we can start coming back in here with this fog layer. And this can afford to have shapes and anomalies and weirdness floating around inside of it, more like actual clouds. But the lower to the ground we get, the more it just blends into being just fog. And so the higher in the atmosphere we get, the more cloud-like it can be. The lower to the ground it is, the more consistent and enveloping it becomes. Just blending it into the space. And then as we get further up, we can fluff it around and work it like actual, like normal clouds, like Bob Ross clouds. That's what we're doing now. And this will get masked over as well, but it exists back here, so we want to make sure it's consistent and accurate. So making these little atmospheric disturbances, that's my 20-minute timer. I kind of like roamed around a little bit and showed off the book a bit today and got a little less artwork done than I anticipated, but I liked going there and showing it because that's the kind of stuff, like all that map placement and stuff. That's all stuff that I do off screen because it's boring watching me push maps around and resizing them and blocking off the borders of them and then changing my mind and deciding to switch them to other positions. Like there's like I'm still like the layout process is ongoing. And as I finish a piece, I look at how is it being integrated into the page. It's like, is this the right place for this? Does this serve the composition? And sometimes I have to change things around. Like it makes more sense for me to talk about stairs first before talking about the ante room, for example, like which means nothing to you, but that's just word salad, but that's just the example. So as I complete these things and start integrating them into the pages, I might have to change something about the pages, or it's like, I don't like how that description and text is now jiving with what this image is looking like. I need to change that. So I'm constantly fiddling with stuff just to try to optimize it and make it just the best thing I can make it be. And I spare you from most of that boring process. Though I will occasionally tip my hand and show you what it is that I'm doing. For the most part, I keep it off. I keep it off of our morning stream because it's not very entertaining content. Mostly because I can't, when I'm concentrating on that sort of stuff and figuring those things out, I can't just freely rant about things. Like, you notice, like, as I concentrate on something, I ramble less. But I think it's the conversations. I think the rambling is probably the best strength of the channel itself, of being entertaining, for at least for people that are into role-playing games, right? Because that's the kind of shit that I end up talking about. So we're blending this all in, and this wobbled border will end up smudging out, like everything else does. But again, we're just adding atmosphere in here right now, and I love how it looks. Love how that looks. So that's our dense fog, and now we have closer fog here, which is blanketing everything. And I want to grab this, like this-ish color. I'm going to put the distant gazebo in front of the fog. That way I can make sure the fog is in front of the tombstones. There we go. That's going to feel good. There. That's what I wanted. Smudge that in. There we go. Everything's looking really, really good over here. I'm really happy with this. Like this is the sort of effect that I wanted. And I'm going to put a little bit of this up here. I like this cloud sort of stuff poking through, so I'm not going to completely wash over that. But I'm not trying to protect it either. I just like that it's there, and I like it. It helps create some variety. There we go. So the next thing we need to do is, now that we have this good thick fog in the distance obscuring everything, now we'll next session tomorrow morning we'll come back and we're going to work on this gazebo some more. So we'll straighten up its architecture. We'll add in its texture, dirtify it. Guards, gazebo. And then we'll do, once we finish that gazebo, then we'll do this gazebo. And once that gazebo is done, then we'll resolve Enrica. And after Enrica's resolved, then we'll do the guards last. And we'll have another fog layer in front of the tombstones here. So we're washing across here and the distant gazebo, and then that might be the last layer that we need, but we will probably have thick wafts of like plague wind blowing through here, so we'll have visible movement in the fog as the wind is pushing it. I think we'll do that up through here to make it like an interesting point of interest. Interesting points of interest are interesting. But yeah, so it has a lot of architecture and a lot of perspective, which slows me down a lot compared to like an item illustration, monster illustration, or a character illustration. These environmental pieces are a lot more intense in accuracy, so it takes longer for me to build them. But I'm anticipating this being done. Tomorrow's Friday. I suspect this will be done on Wednesday, and then we're going to start in on a whole new page, a whole new section of the book to work on different illustrations. Tonight, we're going to come back at 6 p.m. It's about 8 o'clock a.m. here in Seattle right now. I'll be back in 10 hours. We're working on the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration document that I published on DMsGuild. We're updating all of the Spelljammer mechanics to utilize any of the little subtle differences between 2014 and updating it to 2024. We've gotten through shipbuilding. We've gotten through spellcasting. We've gotten through ship and fleet combat. Now we're into exploration. So I'm expecting to spend maybe get through half of that content tonight. I don't anticipate finishing it. So Monday night, when we come back doing Spelljammer on Monday night, we'll probably finish the exploration chapter. Thursday next week, we'll work on hazards. And once we resolve the hazards, we're done. So I suspect by this time next week, we'll have finished all of the preliminary conversion, like documenting all the changes that we need to make to the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book. I will then spend time actually updating that. I'll probably do that on Saturdays when I have a little spare time, including this weekend. So I expect that process to be finished maybe mid-November. No, probably by the beginning of November, that book will be finished. And so we'll update it and we'll republish it on the DMsGuild so that it's live for you guys to use with 2024 rules while still existing in its 2014 format that you could download instead. But the 2024 book is obviously the new hot freshness. So we'll have that available for you guys probably around the beginning of November. And then that frees up our evenings. Now that the Spelljammer will be done, we can go back to working on the Spelljammer subclasses, and that book is damn near ready to go. So meaning like we can start production with it, like building like page layouts and spacing on it and figuring out things like doing the book cover to it, because I want to bundle the Spelljammer subclasses with the Spelljammer combat book the subclasses are built from, to bundle them together so they're all less expensive to purchase together. But and then we have the Bastion campaign system that I plan on firing up in the new year. So I want to get the Spelljammer subclasses book done in November, December, January, and then dive into, because by then the Eberron book will be done, probably in December. And then and then we'll get into the Bashing campaigns as the next major book that we're working on, while updating the color mana system for 2024. So a lot of moving pieces. We're working on a lot of different books, but when we finish construction, when we finish designing a book, then we lay it out, and then we start doing the artwork for that book. And when that is finished, then we publish it, and we grab the next book. So we've got Spelljammers, subclasses. We've got monsters and machines for Spelljammer, for Kaiju and Mecha. We've got the 2024 conversion for the color mana system. We have the martial power system to give marshals the mana system as well, so it's a solid resource. And then we have Volcath, Battle of Volcath for Spelljammer Light as Araxis. Those are the only 5 things that I currently have left on my plate to publish. So I think we should, God's grace, we'll have those things done during the course of next year, and we can start looking at what do we want to do with 27 and beyond, because I want to start doing more Patreon stuff. But I have to have all these books published for me to have the rules out there so I can start building variants and small little pieces on Patreon. But I believe that's where I'm going to end up going. So that's it for now, guys. I got to bounce out of here. Thanks a lot to everyone that's been hanging out with me this morning. I really appreciate you guys. If you're new to the channel, I'm here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, doing artwork in the mornings. And then we do game design on Mondays and Thursday nights. Occasionally, I'll drop in for a lunch on Tuesdays and Fridays, but I haven't been focusing on that as much. So Monday through Fridays in the mornings, and then Mondays and Thursday nights as well. I'll be here until God takes me away. So hope to see you here again. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.